You are costing your business money needlessly, and I know it because I see it all the time in the 8-figure brands that I deal with in my client load and that come to me and talk to me and ask me questions and want to work with me and those things. I've got 7 ways that you are costing yourself money in your business right now. I can almost guarantee you that you are doing one of these at least, and you're probably doing 2 across the entirety of your business. We're going to go through different aspects of your P&L over the next few minutes and talk about ways you're costing your money in your OPEX, ways you're costing yourself money in your CAC, ways you're costing yourself money in your cost of delivery. I'm sure I can help you. Let's get into it. Number 1, you are fat. You're fat. That is problem number 1. I see this so often, it is crazy, but I watch brands over and over spend too much money on things that don't make a difference in their business, especially their OPEX. And this is the thing about e-commerce. E-commerce brands thrive on the fact that they can have a very high revenue per head, okay? Very high revenue per head. And what e-commerce brands very often do, a mistake that they make, is they start spending on employees or agencies or even software, sometimes it's expensive, they just don't need. They just don't need, they're not really doing anything for them. And so as a whole, they are fat. And this is like rule number 1 for me about starting an e-commerce brand. If you think about a software business as a business that has fundamentally an advantage around COGS, right? Like software margins, that's the thing that makes a software business work. You got to think about your e-commerce business that way around OPEX, that it just requires very few people to run a really good business. And you just don't need many of the things that people think, especially like sub 20 million in revenue. You should be laser focused on a few opportunities, do those things exceptionally well. And if you can do that, you can be really, really effective and extremely profitable. It makes everything else about your business easier. Okay. So that's number 1. In general, you are fat. And let me give you a simple number about that. If you are spending more than 15% of your revenue on salaries and OPEX and everything else, it's a fixed cost in your business. If you're spending more than 15% of your revenue on that, and you are over, let's call it $3 million, something like that, right? Sometimes when you're under that, you have to just invest early on. If you and a partner are both in it, you're taking salary. I don't know. Like there's ways in which it's difficult. But once you get past that very low middle point of 7 figures, you should be thinking about how do you stay lean to keep your margin really, really strong. That's number 1. Okay. Number 2, related to that, you're not offshoring. I really have come to think that there is no argument that I see besides something about an office culture or something like that. There's no argument that I see. Or maybe you have a particular commitment to your country, and that I think is respectable. People sometimes see themselves as part of a local community, so sort of on an ethical level, they might do this. But beyond something like that, which I wouldn't approach it necessarily that way, but beyond something like that, if you are not actively exploring offshoring talent, I just think you're making a tremendous mistake. It's part of the way you take the lean OPEX strategy and go even leaner, okay? And it's not really necessarily by having less people. It's just by saving costs. And very simply, Maytab Bogle has said this on my podcast a few times. Even if you just are a US-based company and you hire in Canada, that's going to be like 20 to 30% less costly in labor for you than it would be to hire that same person in the US. So that would be a native English speaker in a very similar culture to the one that you're in. That's before you talk about Latin America. It's before you talk about the place that I've hired a huge amount of my team out of, the Philippines, where I found incredible talent. And I was having this conversation the other day with a team lead of mine in the Philippines. I had an hour-long call with one of my team leads there. I hung up the call and immediately thought to myself, I am an idiot. This woman is so smart, so talented. She's already involved in my business in meaningful ways, right? And yet I am so underutilizing how much value she has because I'm still overlooking just like, I don't know. I don't know why. I just wasn't thinking enough about it. And maybe it's because she's not actually like on my team full time. She's like a team lead that's sort of connected to me from folks in the Philippines. So she's like a half step removed from my core team. But it just occurred to me, like, what am I doing? And when I look at some of the process she's building that is affecting my team directly in the Philippines, like through the staffing agency, like I'm just blown away at how good she is, how talented she is. And I mean this like not sort of adjusting for cost differences. I just mean human to human. And this is actually the real fundamental mistake people make about offshoring. They think that price signals value, right? So because price signals value to people, the moment you are paying less for a human to work in your team, you probably have it in your mind that that person is less good. You're like, they might be good enough, but they're not as good as hiring that same person in the US. I think that calculation is wrong. I think it is wrong. There are talented people everywhere you go in the world. The Philippines, like I mentioned, is a country of, I think, like 180 million people. It's something like that. That might be a little bit wrong, but it's a huge population. Okay, we can look it up really fast. Philippines population. Let's see right now. Okay, 117 million. So it's way off, but still, it's a lot of people. All right, 117 million people. Are you telling me there aren't talented people there? Yes, of course there are. Like there's many talented people who can do all kinds of things in your business. And if you just have it in your mind, these 117 million people aren't good enough or something like that. By the way, most of whom speak excellent English. Okay, like you're just making a mistake. This woman I was talking to, I am actively pursuing how do I get more of your time and more of your mind on my business? What do I have to do to make that happen? Because she is so good. And she's as good, and I mean that compared to any US employee I've ever had. You've got to stop thinking about it that way, as if offshoring talent just means taking less. Like you need to go find incredible talent in places like that. Again, I have a lot of connections in the Philippines, and that's where I've built my team. It doesn't have to be there. But like I just think you've got to make that decision, and you've got to go in on it because, as I have said in my ad reads for my Filipino staffing agency in the past, there's a simple market dynamic here, which is that your dollar goes further in those places for hiring because you hire at the top of the market with less money than it would cost to hire that same equivalent resume in the US. You can just get incredible talent in your business, and it really makes a tremendous difference, both in the impact that highly talented people have. Highly talented people are always creating leverage in your business. You also should know that having less OPEX also creates leverage in your business. You do both those things at once. I don't understand why you wouldn't offshore. Next time you have an instinct to hire somebody in your business, go through it in your mind. Think about it. Ask yourself, what is the thing stopping me from looking overseas for this? What is it? What is my concern? And is it solvable? Yeah, I get there's some challenges in a few different ways, in a few different places, but ask yourself that question. Are those challenges solvable, and how much would I pay to not solve them? Okay, because it's a really expensive thing to just let that friction exist in your mind and not explore it. All right, that's number 2. I build my offshoring teams in the Philippines with my friends at More Staffing. More Staffing are amazing. They've been a sponsor of mine for a long time, and I love them. They help me locate incredible talent, including the people I just mentioned, in the Philippines. I've built my team in the Philippines. I will build my future brand e-commerce team primarily in the Philippines. I've already got people from More Staffing and one of the sister companies working on my brand. Like it's just a no-brainer. And the reason why is very simple. More Staffing connects you to incredible talent in the Philippines with deep e-commerce resumes. You get to hire at the top of the Filipino market, great English speakers who are hard workers, who understand e-commerce really well, even at manager, director, executive levels in your business. And you can do that while paying much less money than it would cost for the same talent in the US. Go to morenow.co/AF. That's morenow.co/AF. If you can go there, get a conversation started, tell them that I sent you, and see if it's possible there's somebody great in the Philippines for your business. I think there probably is, and you should be exploring it. More Staffing will also not only handle recruiting, of course, but they will onboard, train, provide ongoing professional coaching so people are leveling up in their careers, and they'll even give you a 1-year guarantee on that talent. So if somebody is added to your team, doesn't work out for a whole year, because hiring is hard no matter where you do it, if that happens, they'll replace that person for free, no additional recruiting fees. Go to morenow.co/AF to get started today. That's in the OPEX side of your business. Those first 2 are in the OPEX side of your business. Let's move on to the marketing side of your business, to the CAC side of your business, okay? And number 3 is you are still running creative testing campaigns. Creative testing campaigns. I looked at another brand just recently that spent like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on creative testing campaigns in their business in a year. They performed like 40% or maybe even worse than that. I think, let me think about the math really fast, the ROAS, without saying any numbers out loud because it's not my brand. About 40% worse than their target. okay, for those campaigns. So they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars at 40% below their other target. And the operator of the brand told me when they did this, he said, even when we move ads from the creative testing campaign into our like scale campaign, quote unquote, very often they don't actually get any more spend, which means they probably were sort of dragging down the total spend of the account because Meta didn't really want to spend on them at all, even if they were quote unquote winners. That like is everything you need to think about creative testing campaigns. They're costing so much money. They're costing money directly in lost contribution margin when you spend below target. They're costing money indirectly because they're sucking away spend from other ads that Meta could be spending on. So they're less efficiently distributing your dollars. I talk about this a lot. I know. I try to come back to it often because it still happens so much. I still see people all the time saying things like, yeah, but I need to, what if I just do like a little bit of spend to creative testing campaigns? Like, just stop it. Launch your ads with manual bids in all of your other campaigns. Meta will see the winners and they will scale them. I've worked with another outside creative agency on a client of mine. We're sharing work on a client like this, and they're great creative agency. They have launched their campaigns their ads alongside mine, despite this isn't the way they would normally do it. And they have said and what has happened over and over is their ads have spent alongside my ads. Meta has distributed them just fine. Like it just, even people who disagree with me about this, right? There's just plenty of knowledge and plenty of learnings that Meta can get on those creative testing ads. If you run them with manual bids, Meta can figure out which ones are winners, which ones are losers, and can scale them. And you can reduce a massive cost in your business by doing that. Okay. If you want to see my whole case for this, just go search Andrew Ferris creative testing campaigns. You'll find a couple of things I've done about that. Still a couple of my more popular episodes. Just Andrew Ferris creative testing. You'll find a couple of them. I'll try to get those links in the show notes as well, so you can just click over to them. All right. Okay. No, stop doing those. They're costing you money. Number 4, you are spending too much money on branded search. This is another thing that happens all the time. I'll start working with a client. What I always tell clients about Google ads is, I can't make you money there, but I can help you stop losing money there. And this is the number one way I see people losing money. Branded search may have some incrementality to it, but if it does, it is a very low amount. So you need to be running branded search ads at least a 10-to-1 in your ad account on a click-based ROAS basis, at least a 10-to-1, probably a 15-to-1 for it to be incremental at all. If you're not running them at some extremely high number like that, you are almost for sure just costing yourself money for no reason at all, because otherwise the cost of the ad is more than the incremental dollars that you would make by getting those clicks. You're just paying a Google tax. That's it. Okay. So many people already know that, right? That you should do that. And there's a little simple trick I do here. I'll set branded search ads to like a ROAS target or a CPA target. And little by little, I'll just keep tightening that target more and more, right? So like make my TCPA lower, make my ROAS higher, and make my ROAS target higher. Like if you're not, if you're managing Google ads yourself, is a simple thing to do. Just do that little by little, and then just keep an eye on your search impression share. If you're above 85% of your search impression share, or above maybe even 90%, you're probably still getting most of the impressions. And what you'll see is that you can keep raising your ROAS target in those ads for a long time, and Google will still spend and get 90% plus impression share on those ads. And so you'll take an ad from like a 5-to-1 to a 6-to-1 to an 8-to-1 to a 10-to-1 to a 15-to-1. And I've taken to like a 20 or a 25-to-1 and still gotten just as many impressions as I got before. Like Google was just taking my money before that. They were not distributing it as efficiently as possible, just overbidding on stuff on placements that I was going to win anyway. That's a simple thing you can do. There's 2 other things to look at for branded search. Number 1 is, if you have not excluded branded search from your PMAX campaigns, I just guarantee you your PMAX campaigns are just needlessly costing you money. For sure, they are less incremental than you think either way. You should think of PMAX as like lower to mid funnel, most likely. But branded search, if they are in there, it's dragging it down even more. So you really need to get them out of your PMAX campaigns, or they're going to throw off your blended ROAS. The other thing that happens is that people will actually have categorical search or categorical shopping campaigns, like campaigns in Google where they are trying to target non-branded traffic. Okay. And yet branded terms will slip in there, like a misspelling will happen, or of your brand name, or a specific product name, or something like that. Something that you have not put on a negative keyword list will slip into those search and shopping campaigns, and you'll be like, oh, great, my search and shopping is working. That's awesome. But then you go look at the actual search term report and realize, ooh, actually, some branded search terms were making their way in there. This is actually always how I judge Google Ads agencies when I look at the work they're doing for other people. When I see branded search terms making their way into categorical campaigns, non-brand campaigns, it's just a clear indication to me that people are not managing the account closely enough, because it's just one of the most obvious things to me. If you're running branded search, people will be spending thousands of dollars on branded search terms that are running at like a 3-to-1. And you're just flushing money down the toilet if you do that. Stop it. Save your money. Get that out of there. Okay. That's number 4, branded search. Run it at a very high ROAS. Don't blend it with other stuff. It's costing you a bunch of money. Okay. Number 5, you aren't testing your pricing. I've talked about this in a recent episode as well, but I want to come back to it because as I've said elsewhere, the price of your product is probably the most consequential decision that you have made in your business, the most irrationally, right? Like a decision that has a huge impact on the performance of your business, and yet you probably didn't think carefully. You probably were like, looked at your price relative to some competitors that you kind of wanted to be like and put a number on it, right? Even like sometimes this is a big thing, like you need to change your price $20 or $30 relative to, you could command a lot more money, take a little less orders, but get more profit per order, something like that. Like, or come lower, actually could be the case as well, that you need to do that. But people are so nervous about this. And the thing that blows me away, like I said, is just how poor the decision-making process is in testing price. But price has a huge impact on your customer's experience of your brand and on their decision. Price is core to the offer. When I think of the notion of an offer, I think of an offer as 2 things, product and price. And how you put those 2 things together, like could be a big bundle and then a discount or something like that, right? How you combine those 2 things is what I mean by an offer. And so people make this decision about price, and they're so nervous to ever raise the price. They think they're going to get a huge customer backlash if they ever do that. What you really should be doing is testing your price at some point, okay? Because even if you can get $2 or $3 more per purchase without any price elasticity, so like the customer, you get the same amount of orders, that can make a meaningful impact on your margin. It can make a big impact on your margin. So you should be playing with that. If you can get a few more dollars here and there over enough orders over enough time, it can really, really help. So I would actually start with some bigger price tests, but really, especially earlier stage brands where you don't have, this basically becomes really difficult once you have a lot of channels in your business. But if you're especially DTC pure play, you can really mess with this a lot without it causing any other ripple effects in your business. And look, if some customer gets price A and price B separately and they're confused because the price went up or something like that, there's a simple thing to do here. Take care of them in customer service. Just let them know, yep, no problem. We saw the earlier price. You can have that price. Like, it's really simple. You're not going to get a huge backlash of customers. I have mentioned price testing before. You've got to find a way to do it in your business. And so, yeah, test your price. Okay. Huge impact on your margin, huge impact on customers' experience. Totally irrational decision. The most robust split testing, conversion rate optimization software in e-commerce is INTELLIGEMS, certainly including the thing I just mentioned on this episode, which is price testing. That was the first thing that actually drew me to INTELLIGEMS, was when their founders, who had come over from a big tech company and seen the way that big tech was handling price testing, they were seeing how that was not happening in e-commerce, and they built a tool that could handle that as well as everything else you needed for CRO. INTELLIGEMS is incredible software. You really should be testing stuff on your site all the time. I don't know why you wouldn't be. It's something that can be running in the background alongside a lot of other things you're doing, especially because INTELLIGEMS makes testing easy. You don't need to be a developer. Installing it is extremely easy. It's all drag and drop type stuff. Like, it's really, really easy. So INTELLIGEMS.io, you can test all kinds of stuff here, like free shipping threshold. You do full Shopify theme tests, landing page tests, just like simple A/B content tests. Test your PDP. Why are you not testing your PDP? You should be doing it. And certainly, as I mentioned, your price of your product, a huge needle mover in your business. Go to INTELLIGEMS.io to get started today. Tell them I sent you, INTELLIGEMS.io. Okay, let's go. We've done OpEx, we've done CAC. Let's go over to COGS. Okay, so the variable costs is outside of your business. If you think about this, I'm sort of organizing this whole episode the same way I think about organizing a P&L. There's fixed costs, your OpEx. There's variable costs in and customer acquisition. That's CAC. Okay, and there's variable costs for your actual product. That's COGS, or cost of delivery. Okay, and there's 2 things that are happening at the level of COGS that, again, are tremendous mistakes that brands are making all the time. Okay. Number one is that you are not talking to enough manufacturers. Okay. So I guess this is number six. This is number six in your business. The sixth thing the sixth way you are costing your business a lot of money is not talking to enough manufacturers. Okay. You're not talking to enough manufacturers. And the way that I know that is because I'm working on starting a brand right now. And I have just been amazed at the power of talking to lots of manufacturers, just like shopping and negotiating and figuring this out. There are a lot of manufacturers for nearly every product, a lot of suppliers for nearly every product. And there's all kinds of things you can do to negotiate once you have a supplier and to build a relationship that's beneficial for them as well. Look, here's the thing about supplying suppliers, right? Manufacturers make their money on volume. And so a lot of times you can create a mutually beneficial relationship that includes negotiation along the way. If you can show them that it's a pathway to more volume, because the more you're ordering for them, the more value you create for them. And so there's some things they can do, including related to terms and suppliers and all those things along the way. That's great once you have that relationship. And I recommend you do those things and work those things out. Blanket POs can be part of that, all kinds of stuff. Okay. But at the start, I bet most people watching or listening to this who have started a brand have talked to like a few manufacturers, like maybe 5 or something like that. I have worked with a team that I'm working with to start a brand that I'm working on the side, reached out to, in the first week of working together, 60, right? Maybe they located 60 and reached out to 40. I forget, right? They maybe eliminated someone that I'm going to talk to them, but like this like incredible amount of work. And you know what the net result of that is that when I go to launch this product, the person from that team, also based in the Philippines, I should say, incredible supply chain people, the person from that team has told me that they are the person from that team has told me that they're like a little nervous about if they're going to be able to add value in the long term because our supply chain is going to be so good from the start, right? Like I've got product samples. They're really good quality products. We're coming in under the suggested COGS that I modeled the business on and all those things. Like it's just crazy. If you've talked to, like I said, less than, let's call it 10 manufacturers, 10 suppliers for your core product, it is time to start going for more of them. I've talked to a client of mine recently who realized after some shopping that they could probably get their COGS down by like 20%. I talked to another friend of mine who said they're going to get their COGS down by 30% after shopping more manufacturers. And these are real numbers that brands have been floated to me recently just from talking to more manufacturers. Like that is a huge business impact where like just having higher COGS makes everything harder. Another client I talked to recently was able to get one product down from $5 per order to $2 per order, okay, by basically working with, in that case, it was a different supplier for their manufacturer. Just crazy. And that makes, again, makes a huge difference. And so it is possible. It is possible to get cheaper COGS, and it's the kind of thing that has gigantic impact on your business. E-commerce supply chains, in my view, are the most under-optimized parts of most e-commerce businesses because people just don't know what they're doing. And so finding good help for that is a huge deal. I mentioned earlier in this ad more staffing. They've got a company called Move Supply Chain that they work with, or it's a sister company of theirs. That is somebody who I would be talking to about this. That's who I'm working for with mine. So reach out to More, like I said in the ad earlier. Reach out to Move, like I said in the ad earlier. They're going to really help you. Okay. Number 7. This is a newer one that I'm thinking on. This is a little bit something I'm less sure of, but it's something I want to really start thinking about a little more. So take this one with maybe a little bit of grain of salt and just pick up a phone and explore it, okay? And that is, if you are shipping everything, this is another way you're costing yourself money. You are shipping everything with US-based 3PLs. Shipping everything with US-based 3PLs. The reason that is a very big deal, right, is because it is possible, I'm just seeing some stuff around this, that there are some other ways to ship that, again, are meaningfully cheaper. And this is another thing. Fundamental to e-commerce is the idea of shipping products straight to somebody's door. And so if you can make that process cheaper, it's like there's a huge amount of cost there for brands. If you can make that process cheaper without hurting your quality too much, it can really, really help. I'll give you one example right away, which is that for some brands, you should be exploring Portless. I don't have a sponsorship relationship with Portless, but I've been impressed by them for a long time. Portless is in China and they ship from China straight to your door. And so this doesn't work for every brand, right? But they air freight from China basically straight to a customer's door. To the customer, everything looks just like a regular, order from, with tracking numbers and all that kind of stuff, like any other order. So they don't know the difference or anything like that. And the shipping timelines that I had seen most recently were like 5 to 8 days, something like that. So a little long, but by saving on freighting stuff, across the ocean, you can really save a lot of money. And there's also like some duties involved that can be worked around. I don't understand all the details of this, but I've seen like 30% per order cost shavings on that. The other thing is it can also make it so that your turnaround time on fulfillment is much cheaper. Or what I mean is you now don't have to bake in like an extra month in your lead times from your manufacturers to get something overseas, which can also be a really huge deal for your cash conversion cycle. So you should look into Portless and see if it's a good fit for you. Again, tell them I sent you, but I'm not being paid for that. Okay. The other one though that maybe brands should be looking into is Mexican, and if you're in the US, Mexican and Canadian 3PLs. I'm seeing some whispers about this, and again, grain of salt here, take a call, explore it for yourself. I don't have any names to recommend yet, but I talked to somebody recently who was talking about 3PLs just over the border in both of those places, like Toronto, which is just barely north of the US, right? And some places in Baja, just right over the border from San Diego in Southern California, down in Mexico, where like trucks are being driven across the border. The shipping timeline is the exact same as the US, and the labor is meaningfully less expensive, really good quality 3PLs from everything I can tell. I mean, shipping major brands and have been shipping major brands for a long time, some really impressive clients for some of these brands. It's something you should be looking into because again, I'm talking to a client recently who's talking about maybe shaving another like $1.50 per order in fulfillment costs, maybe $2, especially if you have last touch manufacturing. Like that's a labor intensive aspect of your 3PL. Like that's, custom monogramming or anything like that goes on at the last minute, right? Those kinds of brands where labor is a huge part of the cost. That could be a big deal. So the space, storage fees can be a lot better. So yeah, you should be looking into that. I heard about it in such a way recently where I thought it needs to be included in this episode because brands need to check it out. But man, I got to tell you, it is something I would be beating down the door to go figure out if I was running an e-commerce business right now. Mine hasn't launched yet, but the moment that we go to a 3PL, assuming that I don't hear anything between now and then it's going to make me regret this, it will be the first place I look because I think it's a really big deal. So, okay, let's go through all 7 again really fast. Number 1 problem, you're fat. Number 2, you're not offshoring. Why are you not offshoring? That's on the OpEx side. Number 3, you're running creative testing campaigns. Number 4, you're spending too much on branded search. Number 5, you're not testing your pricing. Number 6, you're not talking to enough manufacturers. Number 7, you're shipping everything with US-based 3PLs. You are costing yourself money if you are doing those things. And you should stop and you should add more money to your bottom line, run a leaner, tighter business, and you will get a bigger business at the same time because now you'll have more money to invest in things that grow your business instead of just costs that eat away at your margins. I have so many good interviews coming up. You should subscribe wherever you're watching or listening right now to this because you're not going to want to miss them. Barry Hott coming very soon. I'm interviewing him just a couple of days to talk about creative strategy. I've got Olivia Corey coming to talk about incrementality testing. Shireen Albert's coming back to talk about who knows what, but Shireen's always a great time. Just a bunch of interviews that you're not going to want to miss. Make sure you subscribe wherever you're watching or listening. If you have feedback for me about this episode, you can go to ajfgrowth.com to not only see everything I'm doing, but email me, podcast@ajfgrowth.com, or reach out to me on Twitter @AndrewJFerris. I guess you could see what I'm doing at ajfgrowth.com. Give me feedback on those channels. You know how it works. You know how the internet works. I don't need to tell you. That's it. Thanks so much for watching, for listening. I'll see you next time.